We live in an era where the price of video game consoles and video games are becoming unsustainable and unaffordable for many people. And I decided that today I would talk about what I consider to be the sweet spot of video game systems at this particular time. And it's undoubtedly the PlayStation 4. For around $100 to $150 on eBay, you can pick up a used PlayStation 4 and still get your fill of most modern games in 2025 and beyond, but more importantly taps into a massive back catalog with some of them considered some of the very best video games ever made. For about $100, you can pick up a used PlayStation 4 on resale sites such as eBay, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, and various others. And because the system is still relevant in 2025, it really makes it a very compelling purchase. With used PlayStation 4s, they somehow represent the best value for money that you could possibly get for a modern video game console in 2025. Forget Game Pass, I think the PlayStation 4 right now is the best deal in gaming. And this particular PlayStation 4 here that I'm showing you is one that I picked up on eBay just last week. It cost me $115 shipped to my house. Now, this particular model only comes with the system. The controller that you see here was something I had previously, but this particular PS4 is in pretty good condition. And to make it even more compelling, it's exploitable. And a lot of PlayStation 4s that have kind of been sitting around that people have listed on eBay that they haven't plugged in for a couple of years and haven't let the software update run are exploitable with various jailbreak methods. Now, PlayStation 4s, while they are quite dated, still represent a very compelling video game experience. We're talking about some of the best games that have released in the last 15 or so years. Games such as God of War, The Last of Us Part 2, Spider-Man. These types of games, while are some of the very best you can get on the PS4, also are pretty cheap to pick up and buy these days. I've seen used copies of Spider-Man go for $20 online. I've seen games such as God of War and The Last of Us Part 2 go for between $25 to $35 at GameStop. This represents a really good value for money experience. Now, Sony also is continuing to support the PlayStation 4 in 2025. Add-on features such as PlayStation Premium and the online store are still available. Network connectivity is still up and running. You can download games digitally, of course. And Sony is continuing to market games running on the PlayStation 4 on their own website. Now, it is fair to say that Sony is pretty much done with first-party development of PlayStation 4 games, but that definitely doesn't mean that third parties are as well. In fact, the PlayStation 4 is still very much being supported because, simply put, there are over 100 million of them out there in the wild, and it still brings in a lot of revenue. And as you can see here, games such as Hollow Knight Silksong, which is a Game of the Year contender, these types of games are still being released for the PS4. You don't have to spend, hundreds of dollars, like $600 or north of $600 to buy a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series. You can get a used PlayStation 4 and Hollow Knight for $20, and this is far and away the cheapest way that you can play modern video games on a console system in 2025, hands down. But there are also many other games that are still being released, such as Fatal Fury City of the Wolves and Little Nightmares 3 just came out. Also the game It Takes Two, which was a recent Game of the Year winner in 2021. This is a game that also is available on the PlayStation 4. Now, the library of games that you can get on the PS4 is massive. According to Moby Games, there's over 11,000 PlayStation 4 titles that are available on the platform alone. And this is a huge library of games. Compared to the PS5, of course, the PS5 is ongoing right now. It's in its generation. And I think when it's all said and done, the PS5 is probably going to have a smaller library of games. Now, while it is backward compatible, and it really is to the benefit of the PS5 being backward compatible with PS4 games, for me, it just doesn't seem like we're going to get anywhere near the number of games that the PlayStation 4 has. Now, the PlayStation 4, unfortunately, as we know, is not backward compatible with the PlayStation 3, and this is very well documented, and at the time it really did upset a lot of people. But knowing the technical limitations and technical difficulties of playing PlayStation 3 games on anything other than a PlayStation 3, this is fairly understandable. I would like to see Sony come up with a solution to play backward compatible PS3 games, but that is definitely a separate conversation. Now, while the PlayStation 4 is still getting new games in 2025, and it does have a massive back catalogue of games, which you can pick up relatively cheap these days, there is some expectations that you should be aware of. The first is that the PlayStation 4 comes with a mechanical hard drive. Now, the stock PlayStation 4 comes with a 500GB hard drive installed. You should expect slower loading performance, and you should expect games to take a lot longer to install and run on the PlayStation 4 that you would normally expect in a modern SSD type environment. And this is definitely quite noticeable when you load up big AAA games such as Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, or Red Dead Redemption 2, or even games such as The Last of Us Part 2. You are going to spend a lot of time loading into the game. But many AAA games had impressive asset loading and streaming technology to minimize the amount of loading that was required. Although the loads themselves still took a very long time, they were kept to a minimum most of the time. Now, there are of course some games that just had really egregious loading times, and there's nothing you can really do about that when we talk about a mechanical hard drive. We also have to remember that the PlayStation 4 was not a 4K system. That would come later with the PlayStation 4 Pro that kind of targeted that 4K checkerboard rendering. The base PlayStation 4 targets 1080p with mostly games that run at 30 frames per second, although there were many games that did target 60 frames per second. Some of them you can see here in this particular episode that I'm showing off. And to be completely honest, many of these games still look incredible in 2025. Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man game that released a long time ago now, is a game for me that just still looks fantastic. All these years later, Final Fantasy VII Remake on the base PlayStation 4 is looking really, really sharp. Games such as Hollow Knight Silksong, which is running on the PlayStation 4, is not a demanding game, but it is running at 1080p at a locked 60 frames per second. And you can be rest assured that these smaller indie titles that are still very much relevant will have overall a great experience on the PS4. But also, we have to remember that the PlayStation 4's catalog is an absolute goldmine. We're talking about some of the all-time greatest games ever made: Bloodborne, Persona 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher 3. There are exclusive games such as Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima. These games still hold up beautifully on modern TVs, like you can see here. Many games look stunning running at 1080p or 900p, 60 frames per second, and that amazing art direction really pops even in 2025. Honestly, I think a $100 to $150 used PS4 may be the move for you. I think it really does represent incredible value for money. Now, as mentioned, if you do buy a used PS4, I would definitely take a look at the current firmware version, because if it is less than 12.02, then you can exploit the system, which, while it does kind of close the barrier to keep the system updated and play games online over PlayStation Network, it also means that you have the ability to run various homebrew games. You can run enhancements to existing games. For example, right here you can see I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Remake on a base model PlayStation 4 at 60 frames per second. Now, a lot of people didn't even realize that you could get 60 FPS out of many PS4 games, but with various exploits and cheats, you can get things like unlimited money in various video games. You can uncap frame rates. You can do all sorts of really awesome things with an exploited PlayStation 4. Not only this, you can get access to some really interesting releases and packages, including the very well-known PT demo by Hideo Kojima and Konami as the next, game in the Silent Hill series, which was never to be, unfortunately, and various other interesting things such as the Elden Ring network test, which has differences from the main game. You can also dump your own library of PlayStation 4 games to external hard drives. You can do all sorts of interesting things with an exploitable PlayStation 4. And it may be something that I revisit in the future as an upcoming video. But I definitely did want to put it on your radar. If you do end up buying a PlayStation 4 and a bunch of games, maybe consider taking a look at the firmware that it is currently on, and if it's on 12.02 or less, maybe don't update that firmware to the latest if you're thinking about potentially looking to exploit the system and to unlock some of its unique features. I think personally it's the way to go, but of course, you know, everyone has their own thoughts and opinions, and it's definitely up to you. So for me, the sweet spot undoubtedly is the PlayStation 4 for 100 to 150 bucks, depending on condition and the type of extras that you may get with the system. Checking out eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Mercari or your local game stores, picking up a used PS4, you could do a lot worse than getting one of these systems. For the most part, the games still run incredibly well. We're not going to get those massive, 4K resolutions and the 120 FPS, but you're still going to get a solid gaming experience across the board. And the fact that many developers and publishers have still not yet moved away from the PlayStation 4 really does tell you that the system still has a lot of life left. And because it has had a vast life cycle, we're talking over 12 years at this point, you can pick up some really cheap PlayStation 4 games and enjoy them as you would normally would, with all the kind of modern features you would come to expect. But they are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you think about the PlayStation 4 in 2025 in the comments below. As always, if you like this episode, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.